Despite a slight delay picking a contractor, the demolition of Victoriaville Mall is on track to begin in the spring. Good evening and thank you for joining us. The long-awaited demolition is now just a couple of months from getting underway.
The delay is in the tendering process, which pushes back the start date a few weeks. But city engineering officials say that shouldn't affect the overall timeline for the project, which is expected to cost around $17.5 million. Justin Hardy reports.
The city has been working toward the demolition of Victoriaville for about 6 years. The project was finally put out to tender this January with a closing date of March 25th. That deadline has now been extended until April 10th for two major reasons. The first is the ever-changing tariff situation with the United States, according to Engineering Division Manager Aaron Ward. He says the other reason is due to the sheer complexity of the project.
Especially when you look at all the various components that are included with a lot of building renovation work, the main mall demolition work, and also building a new road and the associated plazas. Usually those would be kind of standalone projects to themselves, but this is all one contract now. And that's where the contractors who are bidding this work, understandably, needed some time to coordinate the various trades and all that, because the city will deal with one contractor, not three. So they need to coordinate all their sub-trades for those various aspects.
Ward says they did take delays into account when planning the project, and he still fully expects the road and businesses to be reopened in October of 2026.
With the tenders closing in April, the city will have up to 2 months to kind of negotiate with that contractor, review the tender to make sure it's compliant. So we're anticipating construction could start by the end of May. That's when you'll see the contractor mobilizing to site, some work happening in here to get things rolling.
The project will see the reopening of Victoria Avenue through where the mall stands now. The other streets that also ran through the mall's current footprint will be turned into plazas and some parking. The project will not need council approval to award the contract so long as the bid is within budget. But Ward says an information report is being prepared for council to keep them in the loop. That report will be presented in several weeks.
Hopefully in May, just in terms of an overall update to council on what the project is, providing some of the updated visuals and so on as well. And also to provide who the successful contractor is, so council is aware.
Justin Hardy, TBT News.
The Transportation Museum's plan to preserve part of the James Whalen tugboat may be cut short as city staff recommend completely scrapping the 120-year-old vessel.
Museum board members are now looking for public support, and if they get a new lease, they're hoping to help pay for the ship's preservation. Jessica Clement reports.
The Whalen is iconic to the city.
Chair of the Transportation Museum of Thunder Bay, Wally Peterson, says ideally they'd like to save as much of the historic James Whalen tug as they can. However, that might not be possible, as city staff will be presenting a recommendation to council on Monday night to scrap and recycle the entire vessel at a cost of $579,000.
The price did come in high, so that's limited our ability to proceed with our original intended plan of preserving select pieces.
One of the proposed display areas for portions of the 120-year-old vessel was at the Transportation Museum site at Pool 6. Peterson says their group would like to pick up some of the costs of the James Whalen's dismantling so they can preserve some of it. But they can't get any government funding until the lease at Pool 6 is renewed by the city.
To bring parts of the Whalen on site, we have to put some more permanent structure down to hold it. And the costs of doing so and the costs of restoring the artifacts and that would require funding. And so with a lease, we can get funding.
The museum has been waiting since 2022 for the best use study to be completed so the lease could be renewed. Things are looking up as they've recently been in talks with Realty Services.
The Realty department reached out to us and wants to renegotiate our lease since the best use study is not moving us off this site, which means now we have a potential for a long-term future on the site.
Peterson says they'll be at Monday night's council meeting. He doesn't have a deputation scheduled, but the group will be there to answer any questions council has about preserving part of the tug. Board member David Muir is hoping they can receive support from residents, council members, and city staff. He adds that the cheapest route isn't always the best route, and the cultural significance of the tug could be rewarding as a tourist destination.
I'd like to have the public access the Whalen, and we could do that. Just imagine to have the ability to stand on the decks of a 105-year-old ship and view the elevators and our surrounding area.
Jessica Clement, TBT News.
A Thunder Bay police officer and the Police Services Board are facing a major lawsuit. It stems from an incident in November of 2022 in which a 60-year-old mental health patient was repeatedly punched by Constable Ryan Doherty on the street near the regional hospital. Doherty was found guilty last year of assault causing bodily harm and was handed a suspended sentence of 1-year probation and 100 hours of community service. The plaintiff and his wife are demanding $1.55 million in punitive and other damages. The claim alleges the police board was negligent for not having a system in place to monitor the excessive use of force by Doherty or other officers. The allegations in the lawsuit haven't been proven in court. The full story can be found on tbnewswatch.com.
Prime Minister Mark Carney will reportedly trigger a snap election on Sunday, and the Conservative Party of Canada has selected its candidate for Thunder Bay Superior North riding. Bob Herman is making his first run at politics after a long career in policing. Herman spent 32 years on the Thunder Bay Police Force, including 11 years as police chief. After his retirement in 2011, Herman served as a deputy police chief and then as acting chief of the Anishinaabe-Aski Police Service. Herman will now be carrying the Conservative Party banner, and he's looking to unseat Liberal Patty Haidu as MP for Thunder Bay Superior North. Herman spoke about why he decided to enter politics at this stage in his life.
Well, for the last 10 years, I've stood by and I've watched a Liberal government that is obsessed with spending and taxation and has devastated our economy. So I just felt I needed to do something about that. So that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm running for the Conservative Party of Canada. I have a pretty good understanding of what the crime and disorder issues are and what's needed to help solve those issues. Those are important issues for the people of Thunder Bay and the surrounding communities. So my background would certainly be an asset to the government in that regard.
The NDP's Joy Wakefield is the other declared candidate so far in Thunder Bay Superior North.
A pair of First Nation leaders in the Northwest welcome an announcement made by the leader of the federal Conservatives yesterday. Pierre Poilievre was in Sudbury to commit to spending $1 billion for road infrastructure to the Ring of Fire and speeding up the permitting process for the roads and potential mines there.
It would be life-changing for Northern Ontario towns, galvanizing thousands of paychecks and modern infrastructure. It would help our First Nations become richer. It would boost our economy with billions of dollars, allowing us to become less dependent on the Americans.
Both Martin Falls and Webequie First Nations are working to develop road networks into the Ring of Fire. Martin Falls Chief Bruce Ashneepaneskum and Webequie Chief Cornelius Wabas have released a joint statement saying Poilievre's commitment responds directly to their request for funding and aligns with their efforts to connect their communities, unlock resources, and create long-term economic opportunities. They also welcome Poilievre's pledge to share tax revenues as a pathway to reconciliation.
MPPs will be back at Queen Park on April 14th.
Premier Doug Ford and his cabinet were sworn in yesterday, and today the official opposition NDP held a first caucus meeting. CTV's Siobhan Morris reports on how all the opposition parties are gearing up for the next legislative session.
A warm welcome for Marit Stiles, arriving to lead her first in-person NDP caucus meeting since last month's election.
That was a lot of hugs.
New Democrats have again formed the official opposition at Queen's Park. Stiles' message to progressive Conservatives on their third mandate:
use it wisely, right? This isn't the time for political games. People are counting on all of us to step up in a big way.
Stiles does give Doug Ford kudos for meeting with American officials to talk tariffs, but she bristles at him calling talk of annexing Canada a compliment.
We'll never be a 51st state. Canada's not for sale. But isn't it nice that someone thinks we have the greatest country in the world?
A compliment is when you say you like somebody's tie, right? It's not when a currently sitting U.S. president treats your country like his personal real estate listing.
Making a pitch to diversify trade and protect Ontario jobs, Marit Stiles invoked a famous quote from the late Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, likening living next to the U.S. with sleeping with an elephant.
We can't get out of bed altogether, but we can build a wall around that elephant so we don't keep getting kicked in the head.
I, Mike Schreiner.
Green Party leader Mike Schreiner took his oath of office for the third time, disappointed not to elect a third Green NPP.
But we're excited to come back to Queen's Park, serve our constituents, and hold Doug Ford accountable.
Not just to deliver a response to tariffs, but address other challenges.
An affordability crisis, especially a housing crisis. Our healthcare and education systems are underfunded, and our environment's under attack.
The post-election period has been busy for the Liberals.
Staffing up, we've built a Liberal caucus bureau.
The Liberals returned to official party status, winning 14 seats, ready for more time to push back on the just-introduced cabinet.
Frankly, the players are the same old, the people who failed on their files previously.
Singling out the Minister of Health, someone Crombie says hasn't done enough to connect the 2.5 million Ontarians without a doctor to care. At Queen's Park, Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
There's been another sharp increase in Ontario measles cases as the province begins to release weekly reports on the infectious disease. Public Health Ontario is reporting 470 measles cases since the outbreak began in October, an increase of 120 cases since March 14th. The spread resulted in 34 hospitalizations, including 2 people who needed intensive care. Most of those hospitalized were unvaccinated children. Symptoms include fever, a red blotchy rash, red watery eyes, and a cough.
Nurses and healthcare professionals across the province held rallies today to pressure the government and hospitals to negotiate registered nurses to patient ratios in a new collective agreement.
Those on the local picket line say the decisions made over the past decade by the province and the Ontario Hospital Association have caused a severe understaffing crisis. Jaden Billick reports.
As arbitration dates approached April 2nd and 3rd for 60,000 hospital sector nurses, healthcare professionals from 26 Ontario hospital locations are escalating actions demanding for better nurse-to-patient ratios. Cheryl McSweeney with ONA Local 73 says the deliberate understaffing of hospitals over the years has created a crisis in the healthcare system due to current ratios simply being too high.
The Ontario Hospital Association has stated that they are against nurse-to-patient ratios. They are for a just-in-time staffing system. Nurses want to go to work each and every day, every single shift, to give quality care to every patient every time. We can't do that unless we have nurse-to-patient ratios.
McSweeney says Ontario currently has the fewest nurse and healthcare workers per population in Canada and the lowest funding than any other province. Colleen Morrow is a nurse practitioner and has been working at Thunder Bay Regional for over 30 years. She says the ratio has led to a number of nurses finding other jobs due to the workload, safety issues, and stress, despite the financial incentives the Ontario government has provided.
OHA is just not listening to us, and they're just not making us a priority. And nurses are the backbones of our healthcare. Statistically, we're the ones who are looking after these patients, and you need to invest in your nurses. And just having funding for more nurses is helping the problem, but it's not helping the problem if you can't get down to the bare root issue.
Picketers voicing their opinion across the province agree that communities deserve an excellent public health care system and fear that Ontario continues to take steps towards privatization. Jaden Billick, TBT News.
Well, turning to weather now, Fiona, it was a very similar day to yesterday, so not too bad, really.
Yeah, definitely ditto marks for Thunder Bay. Not necessarily the case in other parts of the region, but here in Thunder Bay, it was kind of a repeat, a little bit of a Groundhog Day thing happening. We had a low of -8 once again, wind chills around -14, and a daytime high of 4 Celsius. Once again, a couple degrees above normal for this time of year. We started out with lots of sunshine. We've had a little bit of increasing cloud in the afternoon, and most importantly, the winds from the northwest, 14 kilometers per hour to start, and then in the afternoon, kind of rotated around, started coming in from the southwest. That helped keep things mild, although they were a little bit gusty, up to 35 kilometers per hour. If we take a look at what's going on across the region, we've got clouds rolling in to the west, Fort Frances currently under overcast skies. Now, to the west, it was quite chilly last night. Temperatures were around -18, -17 throughout Fort Frances, Kenora, Red Lake. And today they've warmed up beautifully. In fact, Fort Frances warmed up 25 degrees in a matter of about 6 hours, 7 hours. So that's quite a nice rebound. Dryden at similar current temperatures, as is Atikokan, just a little cooler as you head further north. Then as you head eastward, we've got loads of sunshine in Greenstone and Armstrong, just slightly above the freezing mark. Haven't hit quite the heat that has been coming in from the southwest. Along the North Shore, just slightly below or at the freezing mark, or slightly above in Nipigon. Wawa at 0. Sault Ste. Marie has been sitting at -2 pretty much all day since first thing this morning. They've got lots of sunshine at this hour, but they were dealing with snow and drifting snow and just a constant onslaught from that winter storm that was moving through. So this is looking quite calm for this evening. But if we take a look at what's happening in Thunder Bay, you'll notice we're not dropping back down to -8 for the third or possibly fourth night in a row. We are going to stay above the freezing mark. That means that 40% chance of precipitation could come in the form of rain or flurries. You're that close to the freezing mark. It's hard to say exactly how it will fall, but winds are going to stay from the southwest 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. That seems to set the stage for a really nice warm couple of days. Unfortunately, not the case, because as we talked about last night, things change a lot at this time of year, and we've got that front that is going to be moving through and will bring some very chilly air from the north. Get ready for a cold start to the weekend.